In today's video, we are talking about model test shoots. I'm going to tell you about what the agents are looking for, and I'm going to share one setup that every agent loves. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here. I have been photographing models for longer than I care to admit. And when I do shoots, not every single one costs me money. In fact, a majority of the model shoots that I do are for me to practice, to expand my skill set in photography. And this is called a model test shoot. The idea is that everyone is there to experiment, to build their portfolio, to build up new images. Now, when I say the word test shoot, that means that if no one's working for pay, everybody needs to benefit. You need to make sure there's images that the model can use, that you as a photographer are benefiting from, and anyone on the creative team that is there, they should have images that work for their book as well. Now, there's another person who's not on set that you need to keep happy, and that is the model's agent. So the agent is the person that's going to be your contact at a modeling agency that not only helps oversee the model's career, but it's also the person who's going to give you models. So obviously, if you plan on doing a lot of model test shoots, it's really important to make sure they're getting what they need. So when I do a test shoot, there are two things I keep in mind. First and foremost, I ask the agent if there's anything that the model needs. Maybe they're branding the girl for more beauty shoots, and so we need tight close-up beauty images. Maybe they're going for something that's a little bit more commercial. They need something with smiles. Maybe they got a new haircut and we want something to show off that hair. So I always ask if there's something I could do to help that model. But the other thing that I do is I start with a super simple setup. If I'm playing around with my team and doing something creative, that's totally fine. There might be a time where I'm covering someone in glitter and going with crazy hair, but that's not really useful for the model's portfolio. In fact, often the simpler the better. You want to show the subject as a clean canvas. So when someone looks at their portfolio, they know what they're getting. And so what I do is every single model test shoot, I start off with something super simple. Their hair looking pretty similar to how it looks normally, simple makeup, and simple lighting. So a lot of photographers think, okay, I'm shooting a model, I need to pull out all the stops, I need to do crazy lighting. No, in fact, you want to keep it simple. So that's what I want to show you today. I'm going to show you one of my favorite one light setups to start off a model test shoot. The setup that I'm approaching now is something called a front of book or comp card shot. If you've ever seen a model comp card, there's usually one lead image that is often, not always, but often black and white. It's pretty simply lit, and there's a lot of emotion and connection in the subject's face. So I'm going to look to make an image where it's all about the subject drawing you in, and I don't want the lighting to overpower that. So what I would like to do now is build in the set step by step. And we're going to begin with our background. So the background that I am using here is a Savage Universal Super White. The reason I wanted to use this is because you don't even need a background. If you're just starting off in your photographic career and you have a white wall, you will be able to do a setup just like this. Now, often if I'm going for something a little darker, I might grab a Savage Universal Fashion Gray. I find this to be a very versatile background because I can take a light away and make it almost black, or I can light it and make it white. But in this case, think of this just as your white wall. In fact, when I started to shoot my first model shoots, I was shooting in a friend's kitchen against the white wall. So you don't need anything fancy. So that is our first ingredient. But the second ingredient is off to the left-hand side here, and this is a white beauty dish. Now, the reason that I like a white beauty dish so much is it's flattering on the skin, but it's got pop, it's got contrast to it. And I can add some things to it to really make it more dramatic, and I can move the light to sculpt it. So I want to show you what this setup looks like with just the plain white beauty dish, no modifications. Okay, just like that's perfect. All right, so here's what I see in this image. So first and foremost, it's not necessarily exciting yet, but I haven't engaged with my subject. But you'll notice that it's got some nice definition to the shadows on her cheekbones and jawline. There's also a nice shine to the chest and on the top of her cheeks. So I think that's looking pretty good. But in my case, as I look at this, I think that the color isn't really doing much for me. I think I'd probably like this better in a black and white. And if you go to model agent sites, you'll often see black and white images because it allows the subject's emotions to show through. Where they'll have it in color is often if the subject has really beautiful eyes or a certain color of hair. So I'm turning this to black and white, and I'm going to pop the contrast a little bit. And you see how much more I feel like I'm looking at my subject, right? Now, this would be totally fine as a model comp card shot, but I feel like I want something a little moodier where she can really emote or connect with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take light away from the background. There's several different ways I can do this, but what we're going to do here is add a grid. What a grid does is it narrows the spread of light from side to side, up and down, right? It brings it in, but it also makes the light fall off faster. So what that means is I'm able to make the background very dark gray, or if I want, I could even make it black. So let's add the ProPhoto Beauty Dish Grid. So let's take a look at those two, comparing them. Here's without the grid, here's with. Everything gets much darker and much moodier. And also, because the light is not bouncing around the space as much, notice that the shadow on the right-hand side of the face becomes darker. So this is starting to get a little bit moodier here. That's it, like that is the entire lighting setup. Other things to consider is if I want more light on the background, maybe I want in between the two, I could change the angle of the beauty dish. I could point it a little bit more towards the background and it will get a little bit brighter, or I could move her closer to the background. That will lighten it up. And then the opposite is true. If I want the background to be darker, I can feather it away or move her further. So even with this one light, you have quite a bit of control. So let's take a look at feathering the light towards the background. You'll notice light on the background shifts just a little bit. To be honest, I prefer it moodier, so let me lock that in place. I'm gonna go someplace like this. Okay, so that is giving me the drama that I'm looking for. And basically what I'm watching out for is the darkness of her hair. I don't want it to blend in with the background to be pure black, but as long as there's some separation, that's going to work great. Now for these shots, I'm going to be using the Canon R5 Mark II and the 24-105 lens. This gives me a lot of versatility so that I can do close-up shots. I can get things that are a little bit wider, if I go for a really tight beauty shot, maybe I'd switch to a 70-200. Usually 24-105 covers all the range. Now, by the way, as I am looking at this here, just know that there are new updates in a lot of the tools like Lightroom, Capture One, there's other AI programs that allow you to make some fun changes to your images as you're shooting them. For example, here in Capture One, there's actually the ability to drag a couple sliders that just do a light amount of retouching, kind of just smooth out some texture, which can be quite nice. Or if I want to go for something a little bit more stylized, I can add some grain, make it look a little bit more filmic, so then I can make it look a little more like I was shooting with a film camera. Just a couple of things to keep in mind when I'm directing my subject, some of the things I'm thinking about. Hands can show a lot of emotion, so perhaps I'll incorporate the hands to create mood. A tense hand versus a soft, elegant hand communicates something very different. I also want to make sure that I'm getting a little bit of variety from my subject's face for their emotions, sometimes looking at the light, sometimes directly at camera. But in truth, if you are doing a ton of creative shots, but you get just one strong, clean shot like this, you're going to keep the model and the agent thrilled. So let's go get that shot. All right, so there you have it, my formula to keeping models and model agents thrilled with you. And what's nice about that formula, it is super simple. So all I want you to keep in mind is that sometimes more isn't more. Sometimes it's keeping it simple and then making sure that everyone on your test shoot is getting an image of value to them. So if you want to see the gear I use to make these images, be sure to check out the links in the description below. And of course, as always, visit adorama.com. And I recommend that you subscribe because I have so many more videos that go through not just simple lighting, but much more complex and creative lighting, if that's what you're interested. All right, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.